Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. We are so excited to have you here. You are here for a very, very special webinar hosted by Pic-Time and Honeybook today. I am living for the energy in the chat right now. Thank you all. Love it. So we are going to be learning from the best of the best today. We have our legendary John Branch here, who is going to be joining us very shortly on screen. And he is going to be teaching you all about the 5 steps to perfecting your wedding workflows as a photographer. And he is personally using these right now in his photography business, you guys. So we're getting a completely exclusive behind the scenes look at what he has going on with his business, which he always graciously shares with his audiences. So we are so grateful to have him here. We are going to be covering everything you need to know on how to automate your wedding photography workflows. So we are so excited to have you. Hop into the chat. I know you're all over there already, hopefully. Hop into the chat if you haven't introduced yourself already. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Give us the deets on your photography biz. This is a wonderful community connection point as well. Let me see how many folks we've got online because it's going to be some big numbers today. We already have almost 300 people online. We have over 1,600 registered today, so I'm sure more folks will be filing in. So this is an amazing, amazing community moment for all of us to connect as photographers. So happy you all are here. I need to introduce myself as well. So my name is Mac. I'm part of the Honeybook education team here. I've been with our team for over 7 years. So I know this product and our incredible members like the back of my hand, which is why I'm so excited to be having John here with us today. He has been using Honeybook since the conception of his business in 2014, you guys. So if there's anyone who knows this product as well as I do, it is probably John. And he's also been using Pic-Time since 2019. So he is a highly acclaimed published Raleigh wedding photographer, and he's bringing over a decade of experience to our conversation today. I know I saw several people in the chat mentioning his YouTube channel. He is an amazing, amazing educator. So if you do not follow his channels, definitely go do that today. Also, we're going to be learning straight from him in a couple of minutes here. So stay tuned for that, of course, as well. Now, our goal today is that you guys are all going to leave here with practical tactics for streamlining your wedding workflows using the Pic-Time and Honeybook automations and systems. Okay. And the way we're going to get there is by covering the following information. We're going to start out with a quick high level overview of what the heck Honeybook and Picktime are. We're going to talk about how these two programs are now working together with our awesome integration. Pop in the chat and let me know if you did not know that we built an integration together. And let me know if you did know it. I want to see you guys in the chat. That's really what today is all about. Then we'll get John out here to meet him and learn all about his business, how he started, what motivates him, what his approach to his business is. We're going to go through the 5 steps for automating your weddings. Obviously, that is the bulk of the content we are going to be covering today. And then towards the end, we are going to go through your exclusive Honeybook and Picktime offers if you've not taken advantage of those already. So be sure to stay tuned until the end to get all the juicy deets on that. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we'll be taking questions throughout. So do submit those questions in the Q&A tab for me. So first things first, what is Honeybook? Hop into the chat and let me know if you already know what Honeybook is. Maybe you're already using Honeybook. I want to kind of gauge our audience today. Have you heard of Honeybook? Do you know what it is? Are you already using it? And then I'll go through defining what we like to call ourselves, okay? My lifesaver. I love it. Amazing. Client management system. Yes. Loves Honeybook. Love Honeybook. Okay. Wonderful. We're in good company. Been using it for a long time. Oh my gosh. I can't even keep up with the chat. I love it. Okay. So it sounds like people are mostly using it and loving it. Wonderful. So Honeybook, if you don't know, is a client flow management platform that helps you streamline all of the back-end tasks that go into running your photography business and communicating with your clients, right? So that means we help you create, track, share, and organize all of your client communications from inquiry through the end of the job, through the end of delivering that gallery and even beyond, which we'll talk more about today. So we offer tools like scheduling and calendar management, invoicing and collecting payments, right? Over 80% of invoices sent through Honeybook get paid in one day, y'all. Okay, if that's not stat enough to get us signing up today, I don't know what is, right? We have pricing guides, contracts and e-signatures, questionnaires, and of course, templates and automations, which we'll be talking a ton about today as well. So photographers just like y'all are using Honeybook to streamline client communications and bookings and really level up that client experience that they're able to offer. Okay, now what is Pic-Time? You guys probably know Pic-Time. I know a lot of you are from the Pic-Time side of it. So Pic-Time is an innovative platform for photographers to deliver, share, and sell photos online. So it's offering a suite of creative business tools to elevate your brand and maximize potential revenue for every single photo shoot. So from beautiful client galleries and a built-in store to marketing automations meant to help you maximize sales without lifting a finger. Folks are loving Pic-Time. Pic-Time is the best. I agree. I totally agree with y'all. Pic-Time galleries are known for their beauty and their aesthetics, right? But they also have so many other amazing tools that we're just going to barely scratch the surface on today. Things like SEO optimized blog creation that are so easy. Like you have no time to do these things, and Pic-Time makes it so, so easy for you. Some new AI tools that we'll be talking about, smart print store, global print lab network with over 30 labs, networking automations with ready to go campaigns that we'll be touching on, video and GIF inspiration and integrations. There are so many tools going on in the Pic-Time system. If you guys have not checked it out, we will be throwing that offer your way towards the end of today's session. So definitely stay tuned until the end. I see some questions coming through around Pic-Time and Pixie Set. We'll be converting that question over to the Q&A so we can help you out with that. I love that question. We've got our Pic-Time team here to help clarify and answer any questions. Okay, now these two powerhouse tools you guys have partnered together to make your lives even easier. I know that some of you are already using this. Last year, Honeybook and Picktime partnered together to build an integration aimed to give you an even more streamlined workflow and the most personalized experience possible with your clients without all the legwork. Okay, the integration is allowing you to automate the creation of a Picktime gallery once first payment is received in a Honeybook project. So there's an automatic trigger that can happen between the Honeybook tools and the Pic-Time tools around that, which is amazing. You can also manually connect and create a gallery from a Honeybook project. You can let clients access and view the shared galleries directly from their client portal in Honeybook. You can view connected gallery details, things like status, number of images, right from within that Honeybook project. So everything's organized in one centralized hub in that Honeybook project, right? And of course, you can open and edit any of those connected galleries as well. Most recently, we've added some new features to the integration. So I want to go through those now because you might not have heard of them yet. Okay, so you can now embed Pic-Time gallery slideshows into your lead forms and files as videos. So Honeybook Smart Files allow you to embed videos, and now you can have those galleries that you make in Pic-Time uploaded into those files. And not only that, but you can now import images from Pic-Time and those galleries that you've integrated right into those files as well. So project headers can now be customized to be your unique couples, as well as any files that you're sending you can quickly replace images to be your exact couple. So cool, right, Victoria? I love it. Okay. So I can hype up Honeybook and Picktime all day. You guys already know this, but you don't just have to take it from me. I want to get John out here so we can learn more about how he is using these tools on a daily basis, because that's really what it's all about. John, come on out here. Let's get to know you a little bit better. Let's hear about your business, and we're going to kind of go through some initial questions. Hey, John, how are you?
Hello, hello.
How's it going this morning?
Doing pretty good. Feel
Good.
great.
Amazing. Yeah, I know. It's actually probably not morning for you over in Raleigh, huh?
Oh yeah, it's afternoon, I guess.
Yeah, good times. All right. So, can you just maybe briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about like when and how you kind of started your photography journey and your career in photography so people get to know you a bit better?
Yeah, so for all of y'all who may not already know me, I'm John Branch the Fourth. I'm a wedding photographer located in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and I've been shooting weddings for about 10 years now. I actually started my photography business when I was living in New York, shot there for about 4 or 5 years, and then moved to North Carolina on a whim and keep shooting here. I also am a YouTube content creator where I share a lot about wedding photography as well and talk about great brands like Honeybook and Picktime.
Amazing. Yeah, we love John over here. I see lots of folks in the chat are loving John. Some folks met you at the recent conference, which was just last week, wasn't it, or 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago?
2 weeks ago, I think.
Amazing. There's so many fabulous events out there for photographers. So John's always a big name at those too. So John, yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about like your approach as a business owner, as a photographer, when you're looking at your business and approaching your business, what's kind of the driving force for you?
Yeah, so a big part of what drives me in my business, and honestly, it's a lot of how my business started. When I started having a family, my wife really wanted to stay home, and that's how I kind of got into my business. So, providing for my family and saving myself time is actually probably the highest and most important thing to me in my business. It's the main focus. Everything else doesn't really matter.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's like such a common story for photographers too. Like, I know we talked about this a little bit in our prep for the webinar, but I think photographers are just like the true creative business type. Like that, they're that real, like inspired by their work and they really are doing their work as a way to get the life that they want. Like, I think more so than a lot of other maybe creative types, which is why I think I connect with them so much too. So I think that story is probably so common. I would love to see in the chat too, if there are any other folks who feel like their family really motivates them, or if there's a different motivator kind of behind your photography business. I think again, this is a beautiful like community moment to kind of share what is inspiring us or what's really driving us with our photography businesses. So hop in the chat and share anything there. Um, Awesome. And I know we're going to be talking all about automations today, John. So, and yeah, Johnny says, my kids and my husband help me going. Absolutely. Yeah. So, in
Yay.
in regards to getting that time back and allowing your family to function in that way that you kind of really dreamed of when you set out to do this, obviously automations have to play a huge role there. So can you talk to us about how those automations and tools that you've chosen have been built in your business and helped you kind of achieve that?
Yeah, so luckily for me, like you all heard, I signed up for Honeybook probably like immediately, even before I was taking weddings. And automations are something I started building kind of over time to help me out. And I
Mhm.
think the best way I like to think about the automations is they're almost like my own assistant. I'm currently still a solopreneur, so I run everything by myself. I'm editing videos, editing photos, and communicating with my clients. And having those automations as like a front line to all my email communications is a huge help for me, because not only am I running it all by myself, but I'm kind of a creative through and through. Planning is not my strong suit. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. So
100%.
my automations really help out with that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's such a common story with photographers too. It's like that that creative brain is what's driving you and the
Yeah.
business side of it can feel like almost daunting sometimes too when you're such a creative
Oh my
minded
goodness.
person. So, yeah, I love the idea of choosing the right tools to like stretch that team of one as far as you possibly can, right?
Yeah,
To make it so that that revenue that's coming in the door is ultimately going back to fuel those things that you need it to fuel, and you don't have to really look towards like expanding your team too much unless you want to.
exactly.
I love that. And I think this, kind of in terms of automations, I know what I hear from our members all the time is just this concept that automations just feel a little intimidating. Like the idea of automations feels just like this big mountain in front of them. Hop in the chat and let me know if that is you today, because I know that I've heard it a lot. But I don't know if any of y'all are in the crowd today. So hop in the chat and let me know if you feel like automations is this big hill to climb. But I think a lot of folks are concerned that it'll feel maybe like impersonal, or the amount of time that it'll take to set up is just like something they cannot afford to do. So, when you're talking about setting up your automations, I know you said you kind of did it over time, but what has that actually looked like from an executional perspective? Like, how much time did it take? Like, how many, hours, or what kind of initially, or like at the end of the day? how did you get to the place where you are? Because I think that's the most difficult thing for most people to grasp is like, how do you even start to tackle this thing, basically?
Yeah. I think so. The biggest thing I would say, and the biggest tip I would give you all, because again, I'm not very much the like planning minded type person. So once you're starting to go through your sessions or your weddings and you find yourself doing something every time, that means it's probably great for an automation step. And so while you're building those automation steps, literally just do one thing, work it
Yeah.
into your workflow. And then when you find the next thing that you're also doing often, then add that.
Yep.
So I can tell you, like, really, my automations have been pretty much 10 years in the making, and they've just been optimized over and over again when I keep hitting steps where I'm like, oh, well, it makes sense for me to do it this way because this step always happens. May as well get it off of my plate and let the automation do it, and then I can fill in the gaps. And that it makes it so much easier. You don't feel like, oh, I need to know what I need to do next, and I don't know if I need to put it together, and what if it's going to work. You'll just see it as it comes and deal with it when it comes up. Because again, being a creative through and through and no planning, it's much easier to put out the fire
Yeah.
when you can see it rather than trying to come up with a whole game plan.
Exactly. I love that you brought that up because that's exactly what I tell our members too. Like anytime I'm teaching a class on automations, I'm always talking about like Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't have to sit down and dream up all these different scenarios. Wait until the situation is in front of you and build the step at that point, but just take the extra moment to save that step for later because it's going to come up again and you want to save that time. So I love that you're talking about that. I think the biggest point here is that if you have steps to set up, you can always go back and tweak them a bit later, but like
Yeah.
don't wait for those, don't wait to be 10 years down the road and trying to set up automations for your business. When the situation presents itself, go ahead and set it up while it's right there. And I know we're going to get all this amazing information about what John is doing to you guys today. So you have like truly no excuse at this point, right? Like this is going to be the total secret sauce to your business. Basically, John did all this work so that you guys don't have to, which is why we love him. Okay, so John, when it comes to choosing your tools, I know we already had some questions around like Pic-Time versus Pixie Set and some other things. So for you, when it comes to choosing like Honeybook and Pic-Time, how did you determine that they were the right fit for you? Let's just start with the Honeybook side and then we can go into Pic-Time.
Yeah, Honeybook was definitely the automations, but even the client communication was probably one of the biggest choices for me about
Mm-hmm.
Honeybook.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you all know my past, I used to work at Apple and Squarespace. So on the technical side, UI or the user interface is huge for me. So if it doesn't look good either, I don't care how well it works. So Honeybook kind of had the best of both worlds. Not only did it look great, and feel good to use, but it had a lot of tools in it. And those tools actually grew with me over the years. So I'm actually super happy I went with Honeybook. But yeah, I really like the pipeline and
Mm-hmm.
the workspaces were huge
For
for
sure.
me. It changed everything.
Yeah. I think that
It,
like bird's eye view, that like organization is just like so helpful.
exactly, exactly. And then for Pick Time, a lot of it was their automated marketing emails and also the beauty of their galleries. Again, back to UI. The UI on my end looks great and also for my clients. And they've also added a whole bunch of awesome features over the years
Yeah.
that have helped me out. But yeah, the beautiful galleries, the great UI on both my side and my client side, and small things too, like you can actually put GIFs or GIFs, however you want to say it. Leave that in the chat. I guess you can argue about how you're supposed to say it, but you could put your GIFs in your gallery and they automatically play in the gallery. So if you have a GIF of a moment and
Yeah.
also a picture, when your clients are scrolling through, they'll just see it there moving. And it's like little things like that have been awesome with Picktime.
I love that. Yeah. And I know you mentioned too, like from a sales perspective, even like Pic-Time is a huge help in that regard too, because it's helping you automate a lot of your sales through emails and stuff too. So we'll get into more details in that later. But yeah, I think overall the themes that we went through are like the automations from both the Honeybook and the Pic-Time side make that client interaction so seamless. So you don't have to waste any like extra mental space on that, which is huge. the organization, again, from both the client and from your side. And then the client experience overall, just like making sure you're meeting them where they're at and like anticipating their needs. You're able to set expectations without like all of that legwork, I think is so huge. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I think that's really those three things are really the common theme throughout like everything we're going to discuss today. The nature of automations is that you no longer have to be uniquely and individually involved in every aspect and every communication point of your business, right? I know I saw we were talking a little bit about like sometimes automations can feel like maybe they're impersonal or whatever. So we're going to touch on how to make sure that these touch points are really personal, because just because the email is sending automatically doesn't mean that it's not your voice, and doesn't mean like at the end of the day, you know your process well enough and you know your clients well enough to know how you like to respond to them, to know what kinds of questions and concerns come up, to really anticipate those needs. And you can do that in your own voice. And there's also a lot of flexibility that we'll see as well that allows you to control if you actually do want to send that message now, or if you want to send it later, or if you want to send it earlier, but at least that intention is already set up in the tools. So you, again, that mental space is like off your shoulders. Um, and really, I think I would argue that automations create more opportunity for deeper and intentional connection points with your clients. Because, again, let's face it, during the busy, crazy season of weddings, you are not going to want to spend that extra time worrying about remembering it anyways. So, let's go through the 5 steps that we're going to cover today. So, first and foremost, we're starting out with actually setting the automations and the expectations. So we're going to spend a good chunk of time in here today. The next step is obviously the wedding day and what we need to do around that day. Then we'll go into the gallery setup and previews, how the Pic-Time and a Honeybook connection works there, the final delivery, and then relationship building, which again is one of those like added bonuses to having automations helping you out in your business and really building and fostering those relationships for you. So let's get into it. We're going to kick things off here with setting up automations, understanding of how your wedding workflow and automation is set up in Honeybook, and where Pic-Time comes into play as well.
Yeah, so generally, I have made my automations pretty much start from the first touch when they get in contact with me on my contact form on my website, all the way through to they're actually having their first anniversary. A
Wow.
big reason for this as well is once you start having more weddings, let's say you have a year with 20, 30,
Yeah.
it can be a little hard to keep up with every couple. But the way I spread my automations out, it makes it easier for me to have actual touch points with them, as well as automated emails to help me know where I'm at in that process. So one automation start all the way till anniversary.
That's incredible. And yeah, and there's so many layers to this too that we're going to get into. And then in terms of where Pic-Time kind of comes into that role. So if Honeybook is picking up at the time of inquiry, where does Pic-Time kind of fall into that?
Yeah, Picktime kind of fills in between the automations as well. So while Honeybook is handling mainly all the communications, I'm also on the back end for myself, adding that integration within Honeybook in the workflow so that I can see it in my workspace
Yeah.
and build my galleries from Honeybook and not have to jump back and forth too much,
Right.
which is actually very nice. Like I can automatically, let's say if I get a couple who books for an engagement and a wedding,
Hmm.
inside of Honeybook, I can go ahead and start both of those galleries for Pic-Time inside of Honeybook and then go to them later when I'm ready to upload photos.
Awesome. Cool. And then I know you said too, like every single step is accounted for, right? So it's not just emails and files. Like what are some examples of some of like the extra things that you built in there just as a reminder so you can like let go of it completely?
Yeah. Yeah, because my headspace, I don't have enough space to remember every single thing that's happening. So I
Oh
actually
yeah.
add either files that are going out to my couples, things like questionnaires,
Mm,
or also tasks to remind me of things I need to do, maybe like find a second photographer. And those tasks are dated so that I know I have enough time to find a second photographer before that wedding day.
I
And
love
then
that.
it also helps me know which weddings I haven't found a second for yet.
Right. So helpful. I love that. That's genius. That's like the beauty of having internal tasks is like automations be that like assistant for you, right? It's like, hey, John, you need to find your second shooter. You haven't done it yet, right? Like it's amazing. Okay, so before we dive into all the specifics, I'm already seeing questions coming through like, oh, what does your anniversary touch point look like? I promise we were going to literally put the email up on the screen at some point. So stick with us. I just want to pause for a moment so we can dive into kind of the ingredient list of what makes up a Honeybook automation so that we're all kind of on the same page because there are really three questions that you need to be asking yourselves when you build out a single automation step. So, automations in Honeybook can have multiple steps. And at each step, you need to be asking yourself these three questions. Okay. So, first and foremost, there's an action, which will be an email that you send or a file that you send, or like we talked about, an internal task or a reminder for yourself. So, you need to ask yourself, what is that action? And then you need to say, okay, what is the timing of this action? When does this thing need to happen? So the action is what is the thing? The timing is when does the thing need to happen? So how many days, weeks, or hours? How is it before or after? And what is the trigger? And the trigger is what is this thing dependent on? Okay, what are the dependencies around this thing? Do you want a file to send 0 minutes after a payment is received, for example? So that's just one example, okay? And there are 10, ton. I only have three up on the screen under the triggers section, you guys. There are a ton of options around the triggers, but John is literally only using these three in his automation. So if we want to just like zoom in and make this super photography specific and super easy to digest, we're just using when the automation is activated. So this is what John has actually connected to his contact form so that as soon as they submit that, the automation is applied based on, the fact that they're a wedding inquiry. He's like, great, I know exactly what to send them. And you can also manually apply automations, but John has it totally hands off. So you guys can do that too. The other trigger that he's using is the final payment made, first payment is made. So that's the one I was just talking about. When that initial deposit comes through, he's like ready to kick off that project. He's got Honeybook in charge of making sure that those next steps are in place and happening on time. And then, of course, the project date, which in your guys' case is going to be the wedding date. So he's only using those three triggers. And there are so many others that you guys can customize and build as well. But if it feels overwhelming, just zoom in on these three, you guys, okay? Some others that you might want to consider using as a photographer is contract signed. So that can be a trigger that you can explore. Questionnaire being completed is another one. And then session completed, which is around scheduling. So if you know you have an initial like first call or meeting with them and you like to send them a pricing guide immediately after that call, that's a great trigger to explore as well. Okay, so let's get into the actual steps of John's workflow here. And John, I'm going to let you kind of talk through each of these, starting out with step one, that new booking email that goes out.
Awesome. So I'm gonna start like kind of right before that first email
Cool.
to lead into it, which is when you first get contacted. My automation starts then, and that's just, thanks for getting in contact with me. You can schedule a meeting with me here.
Mhm.
Honeybook has a scheduling system in there, so I don't have to make that schedule for the meeting at all. Pretty much they get that email automatically. They pick a time, and then I can meet with them. After we've met, they decide to book and they book. The trigger is first payment. And then I automatically have an email that goes out that's like, yay, thanks for booking me. You're booked with me now. Let's set expectations on what's going to come up next. If you have an engagement session, you'll see an email from me so we can book that and get your timing together. And if not, we'll be meeting later on. Feel free to get in touch with me, so on and so forth. So that's the first email and the most important because, again, setting expectations as a wedding photographer is probably the biggest thing you need to be doing at all times. So first payment is the trigger. And again, this is something I don't have to do it. It's all automated. So once they've signed the contract and made their first payment, that automatic, you've paid, I'm with you now, here are our next steps, is automatically sent out.
I love that. And I want to clarify here too, because I appreciate that you do this. So regardless of if they have an engagement session or not, your email says, if you have an engagement session, da 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 da. If not, XYZ. So it doesn't that doesn't make it feel impersonal. That's just saying, hey, if you have booked this thing, here's how I do it. And if you haven't, here's how we do it. So it's still setting those expectations, and it allows you to automate that step in your process without having to go in. The client at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you say, this is how I do it for these people, this is how I do it for other people. What matters is that those expectations are set. So I think that's a really good way to kind of find that balance of like, where can I afford to automate and where should I be uniquely involved?
Yep,
Awesome.
exactly.
Okay. And then the next step after that one.
So the next step is triggered automatically. It's about 5 days later. And this is an email to plan their engagement session. Now, actually, while we were making this deck, I realized there's a step in my automation that I can actually fix, which is I could have my couples picking in a smart file a calendar date and just setting their engagement that way. Currently, now I kind of email with them back and forth, which is wasted time. It would make more sense to send a smart file that has a calendar date and they can just choose when they want to do their engagement. But basically, this email goes out and it's like, hey, time to plan your engagement. Let's go ahead and talk about where you want to have your engagement. Maybe if you want to have an outfit change. And then I usually have a link to my website that has a engagement session tips kind of page, which shows like, don't wear stripes and polka dots. Like one person should be plain and one person can have patterns or something of that sort. And, if you want to dress up in the city and dress down in the park. So I have all that on my website. However, again, like I said, what would make more sense is to make that into a smart file, keep it all inside of Honeybook. And on top of that, I could even, if I wanted to, have locations they could go to. They could choose the locations, they could choose the date, and then I wouldn't have the email back and forth. So
Yeah.
this is 5 days after. And the thing I like about this is this email going out reminds me that they have an engagement session and how I can actually plan that engagement session with them. Basically, the biggest thing I'm trying to do here is not let anything fall through the cracks. Because, like I said, again, I'm the type of person where if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist and it will fall through the cracks.
Yeah. Definitely. No, and I love that we're still acknowledging that, like, even John Branch is still, like, developing his automations, guys. So it is a process, and it's, like, it's all about how deeply you can dive in and look at your own process with, like, very clear eyes, and I love that John is still, like, learning and growing right alongside us, right? So, yeah, I love the idea of doing, like, engagement like style guide as a honeybook file where they can also fill out a questionnaire piece that has the location selection and has that scheduling page they can actually choose a time. Like, that would be golden. So we love this. Okay, and then after that, what's your third step?
So the third step is a timeline questionnaire. I like to build my timelines for my couples. Even if they have a planner, I think it makes sense to have a photographer's timeline and then to match that up with your planner. So this is the questionnaire that comes out. It's 120 days before the wedding. So again, this is something that I don't have to remember to do. But once I see that the questionnaire goes out and that they filled it out, now I know, and also a task goes along with this, that I need to build my photographer's timeline.
Hmm.
So again, the automations are helping me remember what I need to do next rather than me either forgetting to build their timeline or doing it too early or having to manually send out a timeline questionnaire for every single couple. This goes out and I go, great, get the information back from them. And just to give y'all some ideas of what the questionnaire looks like, it's a very straightforward questionnaire. Really, when it comes to making a timeline for a photographer, we're kind of building our time around the wedding day itself. I always like to say that the wedding is its own living thing, and we're kind of just fitting in between it. So it's really stuff like, when are you going to start getting ready? When's your hair and makeup start? When does it end? When are you doing a first look or not? When is the cocktail hour? When's the ceremony? Does the reception start? From all of those things, now I know enough to build a timeline. So I can say, well, I'm going to come in here because your makeup starts at 9 and I don't need to be there for all the makeup. let's show up when your face is mainly done. So I'll come in at 12 and then build my timeline that way.
Yeah. Awesome. And then between steps 2 and 3, you also have an internal task to remind you to find a second shooter as well, right?
Yes. Because
Okay.
at that point, we're already planning on engagement. I may have done it already. And now I need to hone in to get my second shooters, because if you don't do that early enough,
Right.
then you're like a month out searching
Scrambling.
on Facebook. Y'all know, wedding
Yeah.
photographers know. And you're like, I need
Oh,
a
yeah.
second photographer.
Oh, yeah. The Honeybook community is always like in search of all the time, all the time. Quiet plug for the Honeybook community. If you need second shooters, it's an amazing place to go. Okay. And then we have step 4. This is the bridal session planning piece of it.
Yes. And so I saw a question earlier that I'll kind of touch on because it goes along with this as well. I think it was like, what if they don't have an engagement session?
Mhm.
So some of these automation steps, I can choose to release them or not. So they don't just, the email doesn't go out by themselves. I
Right.
have to approve the email to go out. And this is how I can use one single automation, because then if my couple doesn't have an actual engagement session, what will happen is Honeybook will say, hey, it's time for this automation to go out. Do you want to do it? And I'll go, oh no, because they don't have engagement. And I just delete that
Right.
step.
Right.
So the bridal session is the same thing.
Mhm.
To me, a bridal session and engagement are kind of the same type of thing. It's an extra session along with your wedding.
Mhm.
So if for some reason I don't have a bridal session, same thing. I just tell it not to go out. But bridal session email goes out, and it's very much like the engagement session. Here's a guide to help you get through your bridal session. Have a friend come with you to hype you up, bring some music so you can be comfortable while you're taking your photos. Let's talk about locations and where you're going to do it, and timing, and pick a date and time.
I love it.
But again, having those approved emails on some automation steps are pretty crucial, and they help out a lot.
Yeah. That approve before sending is like a great intro to automations as well. Like if you haven't done it because you're nervous about things sending automatically, just literally set everything to approve before sending it first. And if you're going in approving it every single time, you know you're in the clear. So I love that advice. All right, let's zip through these last couple ones, John, so we can keep going here. We've got our shot list questionnaire.
So the shot list questionnaire is pretty much the same as the timeline. The
Mhm.
biggest tip I'll give to wedding photographers is make this more about the family shots and not about like, I want pictures of the flowers. Um, Especially if you're not like a first year wedding photographer, to take pictures of the flowers and the first kiss and the shoes and so on and so forth. This is more like, I want your family list, and I want names, and I want it, Joe and mom and me and whoever, and that is a list, and so on and so forth, so that I can call it out quickly and get those shots all done.
Right. Awesome. Okay, cool. And then the last one before the wedding day.
Yep. So 4 weeks before, this is our final meeting. I'll usually do this over Zoom or something. These are short meetings, but they're just like a catch up to make sure we all know what's happening. All the expectations are set. If anything has come up, we can talk about that last minute, and just, very much like, okay, great. We're about to do this. We're all on the same page. Awesome. See you in a couple weeks.
Amazing. And then it's wedding day time. So after step 5, it's the actual wedding day itself. So what happens in terms of your automation at that point with your email? And I think this one is set to go out the day after the wedding, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about this step?
Yeah. So the day after the wedding, obviously you're going to be backing up your photos, trying to get a preview out. But I
Mhm.
really like to have a touch point just to remind my couples of the expectations going forward. This actually helps with having couples not hit me up in like 2 days asking
Exactly.
me when the photos are going to be there.
Yep.
Pretty much the email is just like, yay, this was a great day. Everything was awesome. Here's when you can expect your photos,
Mhm.
so on and so forth. This is also another approved to be sent out email, because, knock on wood, you have a horrible day. Um, then I can actually edit the email some and make it more personal, and then send it to them, rather than, a horrible day and it rained and be like, that was a great day in the email. So again, set your emails to approve before sending
Yeah.
if they're very important emails.
100%. Yeah, and I love this idea of setting this one up because I think this can be a really missed opportunity for folks, right? So from the client perspective, from your couple's perspective, this huge moment in their life that they've been working their tushies off for the past however long, right, has just finally wrapped up. And for them, the hard work is finally over. And for you, the hard work is just starting. So, this arguably might be the most difficult time for you to show up for your clients, but it is also arguably the most important time to show up because for them, they're finally relieved. And we don't want this to be like an anticlimactic moment for them. So, building this in as an automation is like an absolute lifesaver. And it is really ensuring that you're meeting your clients in this really celebratory moment, which feels good. And at the end of the day, the way you make them feel is going to be referrals, renewals, and positive reviews, which is everything in our businesses. Okay, so moving on to the gallery setup and the previews. After you set up this email to automatically send, you head off to your editing land and you get things done. And once those previews are ready, you're going to head to Pic-Time, right? And then you find your client's gallery. Can you talk to us a little bit more about like how you set that up, what that process is like, how that works?
Yes.
Because I know there's some different ways you can do it with the new integration. So how do you typically do it?
Generally, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, so you can kind of set this up at any stage. Like
Mm-hmm.
once your client books, you can go ahead and inside of Honeybook build your galleries. And that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and name your gallery, which I'll normally do couple's name, engagement, couple name, wedding. So here's my
Mm-hmm.
two galleries. I can choose the URL for that gallery right inside of Honeybook. I can add the clients as the main client. This is all happening inside of Honeybook, which is really awesome. I love the fact that I can build both my engagement and wedding and have them sitting there in my workspace inside of Honeybook. So I'm doing that pretty early on. Now, after the wedding and that first email goes out of like, yay, it's your wedding, that's when I've done my preview photos and I'll jump back over to Picktime and then go ahead and upload those photos into Picktime, which is
Cool.
very easy to do, especially if I've already gone ahead and set up all that stuff while I'm inside of Honeybook.
Right.
Again, they're my two favorite companies. Like, I'm super excited about the integration.
I love it. Yeah. So just to give you guys a quick glimpse at like what this will look like actually inside of a Honeybook project, you can see here you can either create a new one or connect an existing one. So depending on your personal preference, really, you can set it up however you want. And then you can see how easy it is to view the gallery or copy the link or edit whatever you need to edit straight from within here so that your exact project with those couples are connected to that exact same gallery in Pic-Time. So it's really, really easy. And then obviously in terms of uploading the previews and stuff, you create that gallery through Honeybook. We already talked about what point you do that in your process. And then when it's time to upload your previews, you're just logging into Pic-Time as you normally would, right, John?
Yep.
And then you find that gallery that you already created through the integration and you're just uploading the images easily and then just clicking on the automation apps in Pic-Time that you want as well, right? Or is that more so at the final delivery?
Correct. Yeah, some of the automation apps inside of Picktime, I'll go ahead and turn on. Also, too, you can make slideshows inside of Picktime as well. So all
Cool.
that can be a part of your actual previews, which is nice. There's some of the apps that you have are like Early Bird and stuff, and we'll be talking about
Yeah,
those a little bit later.
right.
But these are automated emails that will go out and help market your gallery so
Mhm.
that your couple and their guests can get discounts on prints and sell the prints for you.
Huge, huge. Yeah, we'll get into those in a couple of seconds. So, okay, so yeah, so you're uploading your previews, you're doing all of that work on the Pic-Time side. It's so easy from that side. And again, we'll show how quick and easy it is to toggle those things on in Pic-Time. And then you're just heading back to Honeybook to manually send this email. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. I'll
Cool.
usually go ahead and just manually say, hey, your previews are done. I can grab the link while I'm inside of Honeybook from the
Mhm.
Picktime integration, which is really nice. Plug it into my email.
Yeah.
So, again, there are some touch points where I am sending out manual emails. It's not just all automated the whole way through.
Yeah. And I think one thing to note too is this is still an email template. Like in John's process, he still has this template built out with the placeholder for the link. So when he's done with the preview, he knows it's time. And this is one of those tasks that I think you could build into the automation as a reminder, but you're already in editing land for this couple anyways.
Yeah.
Like this is one step of your process that you are most certainly not going to have slip through the cracks because this is the thing you are actively working on. So it's probably not super necessary to include it as an automation task reminder, but I love the idea of having this as a template still because it's really quick and easy to just tweak things quickly as you need to, but like 90% of that work is already done in the
Yeah.
template for you. Awesome. So after that gallery is set up and the previews are delivered, it's kind of back to editing and ultimately delivering that final gallery. So let's talk through that because this is essentially like the cornerstone of doing business with you. And like this is the moment everyone is waiting for. So it's really crucial to make it that special moment because like the wedding day is, however far behind. We want to make sure that this is a really exciting moment for them. And not only exciting, because I think that comes with the territory, they can't wait to get their photos, but how do you make sure it's a really seamless experience for the clients too? And I know one of the ways that Pic-Time is really unique in providing that awesome client experience is with their slideshows. So, John, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So delivering the gallery is probably my favorite part. It, it doesn't totally make sense, but what I love about it is uploading all my photos to the gallery and just how the gallery works in general. So we
Mm-hmm.
talked about the slideshow before. You can make a slideshow for the preview, which I highly recommend doing. And it's actually very easy to do because you're doing it all inside of Picktime. You upload your photos. It has beat matching for songs that they already have
I love
that are
it.
also license free that you can use.
It's so
And
cool.
if anyone's ever edited video before, beat matching is like a whole ordeal. It takes forever. So the fact that that's automated in there is like the best. But one thing I do with my wedding galleries is I actually export them into separate photos based on the sections of the day. So you're
Mhm.
talking, like getting ready, cocktail hour, first look, first dances, cake cut, so on and so forth. And what I really love is that inside of PickTime, I can grab those folders that are named by the sections of the day and just throw them into PickTime and they'll automatically be uploaded like that as well. So in my galleries, my couples can now see the reception, the ceremony, the speeches all separated and they can find that. What also is nice though, built into PickTime, is they have an AI feature that will actually go through and find faces. It reminds me a lot of if you have an iPhone, how your phone will find the faces of people that you take photos of, then you can name them. Then you're like, here's my kid and here's my wife, and you just see all the photos of that one person. Well,
Yeah.
PickTime has that built into their gallery too. So if you're like me and you're delivering, 1,000 photos
Right.
plus, that's a lot of photos for your couple. Having this AI feature that finds faces is so much easier for your couples because now instead of having to go searching through 1,000 photos for a couple of photos of grandma, they can just click on her face and it'll show all of the photos of her and they can easily grab it. And that by itself
Yeah.
it's huge.
It is
It's
huge.
a really great feature. I actually love it. And that's client facing.
Right.
Now, again, there are features like this on our side for vendors, which we'll be talking about in a moment.
Mhm.
But that alone is great. Again, the galleries look great. You can have GIFs that play. You can add videos, not directly uploaded, but if you host it somewhere else, you can add a video as well. And all that stuff will be there. Now,
Awesome.
again, the biggest thing I love with Picktime is their automated apps for your print sales. And these are things that I'm turning on every single gallery. Things like abandoned cart. So if someone goes and looks at a print, adds it to their cart, but decides not to buy it, an automated email will go out like, hey, did you forget to do this? That alone, if you do any of the apps, do abandoned cart, because I've had that bring in hundreds of dollars on print sales just like across the board.
Yeah.
But there's an anniversary app. And what I like most, the biggest thing, because I could talk about this forever, the biggest thing is these aren't just emails that are being sent out to your couples.
Yeah.
Inside the galleries, and you can kind of see it in this picture, there'll be a banner, and sometimes even one of the pictures, there'll be like a square in their gallery that says, hey, by the way, there's a discount happening right now. And that's huge because now you don't have to worry about like, oh, well, maybe they didn't get the email, maybe they didn't see it. Even if they go in the gallery, they're going to see that there's some kind of discount happening to
Yeah.
push them to buy prints.
100%. I feel like, and even we know that at Honeybook too, like when you have things in the product, in the experience that the clients are right in front of their face, like it makes that much of a big difference. So that, and I feel like that goes along with how committed Pic-Time is to their like incredible aesthetic and like the way you're able to present yourself to your clients. Like these are your galleries. It needs to look good. It needs to feel beautiful and feel really seamless for them. And Pic-Time is like so cream of the crop in doing this. So I love that that's included as well. And then I know there's also the anniversary automation in
Yeah.
Pic-Time that goes out too. And this is a huge one for you, right, John?
Yeah, and the biggest thing about the automations as well is that these have been curated to help with sales. So it's not just like one email, it's like a full email drip feed
Yeah.
of like for an anniversary, like 20 days before the anniversary, and then, 3 days before the actual anniversary, things like that.
Yeah.
This slide actually has what I was talking about. And what I like with the banners showing the discount is they don't really overwhelm your couple either. They're just kind of placed there nicely within the gallery, like, hey, by the way, it's huge. And the fact that they're all kind of drip feeds planned out and perfected from other educators is the main reason I use Picktime hands down. So early bird is great. Turn that on when you first release the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And these go out to not only the couple, but anyone who has joined the gallery as well. So
Yeah.
if they send links to their friends and family and they join the gallery, the friends and family will also see the discount and they can order prints if they want to. Again, I've had a lot of parents just buy so many prints because there was just a discount going on at the
Yeah.
time. And oh my God, I try not to go on forever. There's also automations for like holidays that come up too.
Yes.
And so what I love is that I don't have to sit back and think about like, oh no, Mother's Day is coming up. What do I
Mm-hmm.
do for Mother's Day?
Mm-hmm.
Weeks before, Picktime has already emailed me to make me know like, hey, we have our Mother's Day app coming up. You probably want to go ahead and turn that on if you want to do that. You can also pick which galleries the automations go to. So it's not like, sometimes I do styled shoots, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to send marketing emails to the florist
Right.
who we did a styled shoot on. So I can choose which galleries I want also.
100%. Yeah, and I know we saw some questions coming through in the audience around holidays too, and we'll show there's like holiday and Black Friday sales. So we've got the early bird special, there's the abandoned cart automation, which like I know even Old Navy be hitting me up like when I leave stuff in my cart and I'm like, "Yes, I will buy that. Thank you so much for reminding me," right? And then there's the anniversary automation around the time of the anniversary, which I know you already talked about, John. And then there's also an anniversary component in Honeybook that you use as well, right?
Yeah. So again, with my automation, since I'm going from immediate contact all the way to their anniversary, which this anniversary step, going back to building your automation over time, this is something I added in later because I forgot that I didn't have a touch point after the anniversary. So, a year out. But what's nice is that Picktime has already sent emails out about the anniversary discount.
Right.
So now my anniversary email is just again like, hey, happy anniversary. Here's your links to your galleries again if you haven't seen them in a while. And then also, you know, here's a link to send it to your friends and family if you want to
Yeah.
leave me a discount or not a discount, a review or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget about the emails that were sent out about your discount if you want to order any prints or books or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I'm basically having the automations go together with each other and
Mm-hmm.
feed each other from different sections.
Absolutely. Cool. And I think I actually misspoke a little bit because this is the one saying that the final delivery is ready. But of course, you have that one going out with the automation. And then when it comes to the relationship building, that is really where that like final touch point is coming into play. And this is just a quick glimpse at John's anniversary email that goes out, which I know we had some questions around. I think this is just a really simple and really like uber personal connection point to kind of nudge your client and reach back out to them. And like you're saying, ask for that review. It feels super thoughtful, but with an automation in place to do this for you, it is truly a zero effort way to make a really big impact. So I love that you do that. And I know we had some folks asking questions around like screenshotting slides. Yes, please screenshot slides. If this is going to help inspire your work, absolutely. And then we talked around the holiday emails that go out too, right? Like the anniversary touch point is great and a really personal way to connect with them. But in terms of your sales and boosting your revenue, Pic-Time has such amazing tools. Like Honeybook is so focused on like
So
the
good.
client and your unique like wedding day experience with them. Pic-Time is really focused on like print sales and maximizing revenue from that perspective. Honeybook is like managing that wedding day and making sure communications and client experience on that side are really streamlined. But Pic-Time is all about those prints and the photos and delivering those in a really exceptional and aesthetic way. So that is where those holiday emails and promotions come in. I know John just mentioned Mother's Day, which just passed. So there's all different kinds of ways to really boost that revenue with them. And like we said, it's like an entire drip campaign that is as simple as toggling on a switch
Yeah.
and connecting the gallery. It is like, John doesn't even, he told me, he was like, I don't even touch them. I don't even edit them. I literally just toggle it on and we're just talking about money coming in. Like it doesn't get better than this, you guys. And then the other piece we want to touch on really quickly, because I know we're getting a little short on time, is these vendor relationships that are available in Pic-Time. John, I know you have some examples here to help us understand this idea a little bit better too.
So pretty much what we were talking about earlier with your client facing side of finding the photos based off of someone's like picture,
Mm-hmm.
you can do this type of stuff for your vendors as well. So instead of just sending them the whole gallery and saying like, hey, yay, find your photos, and now a vendor who's a business owner's taking time to find through 1,000 photos,
Right.
I have an AI search on my end, and I can put in something like flowers or just choose florist, and the AI is going to automatically find all the flower pictures for me.
So
And I
cool.
can make that into its own gallery. I can share that as a gallery to my florist. And now instead of here's 1,000 photos of everything, I can specifically say, here's 50 photos of
Yeah.
most of the flowers. I could still also send the whole gallery just because, but this is going to make such a huge impact in your local area to
Yeah.
your vendors. Because remember, the biggest thing for us as photographers, we're the only ones creating content. No one else is. They
Yeah.
put in all this hard work to make things beautiful, and we make the content. So being able to quickly just in literally 2 clicks find the florist photos, make them into a gallery, and send it to them, that's the kind of stuff that will bring in more work for you, because
Right.
then they'll recommend you because they know they're going to get stuff from you.
Yeah.
So this is huge for your vendor relationships.
Absolutely. So to wrap this all up, you guys, I'm going to throw our kind of 5 steps back up here on screen. I think the biggest kind of like theme throughout everything that we discussed today, or the big kind of like underlying tone here, is that your clients are getting the best possible experience with you with the most minimal, lowest lift effort possible from your side of things, stretching that team of one, right? And with automations on both the Honeybook and the Pic-Time side, this is completely achievable for your businesses. Now, I promised you guys your exclusive discounts. We've had some pop-ups come up throughout the session. Thank you for sticking around till the end. We'll probably just be another like 3 minutes or so here, but if you have to leave, we totally understand. As we mentioned, these two powerful tools, Honeybook and Picktime, are working hand in hand to run your entire client experience from very first inquiry to your gallery statuses, your final invoices, your payments. If you are a Picktime user who is not already using Honeybook, we are offering you 1 free year of the Honeybook tools. This is insane, you guys. We literally don't do this anywhere for anyone. We just love Pic-Time users that much. This is like over a $350 value. So definitely take advantage of that if you're not already using Honeybook and you are using Pic-Time. Now, on the flip side, if you are not a Pic-Time user yet, I know we saw some folks from Pixie Set. Welcome. You get an extra 3 free months on any Pic-Time annual plan. You can get your unique code in your perks page inside your Honeybook account. We can throw the link for that into the chat if you need it. But the way you get there is tools, referrals, and then on the perks side of it. Okay. And that is inside your Honeybook account. If you're already a Honeybook user, but you want to check out Pic-Time, you can do that there. Now, before you all sign off today, I would just love to hear from you. What was your biggest learning? What was your biggest takeaway today? Was there any aha moment? We want all that feedback from you. We love to hear it. And then we did send that poll around how this webinar was able to help you today. So do choose a number between 1 and 10 there to help us gauge how helpful it was for you. And while you're popping those aha moments and those big inspirational learning moments into the chat, I'm just going to thank y'all. Thank you, John, so much for being here. We always love to learn from you, and you're always so gracious to share all of your behind the scenes look at your business. So we just love working with you. So thank you so much for being here for that. And thank you to our amazing team of Honeybook specialists and Pic-Time specialists who are here to assist you all and answer your questions. And thank you guys for joining us, taking an hour of your day to learn and better your businesses. You all deserve a round of applause for that always. I hope this information was helpful, and we look forward to working with you soon.